But for those who are new here, thank you for saying hi and introducing yourselves. You guys are already utilizing the chat. Love that. So my name is Jill. I am the client success and event specialist here with Ama La Vida. I am also the certified health and wellness coach. So I get to help clients with mind, body, emotions, mindset work, setting goals, setting habits, and redefining health for yourself. So I get to do lots of fun things here. And of course, one of my favorite parts is being able to host awesome events and being able to get to meet people from all over the world. This is so awesome. And I can already tell based on everyone's cameras on and everyone already saying hi and chatting in the chat, this is going to be great. So with that, so just a few housekeeping rules because we do have a lot of people on. Love it. Love that you have your video on. We do ask throughout, and Sherry, I know this is going against what you like, but just for the sake of time and because we have so many amazing people here today, we do invite you to please keep yourself muted throughout, just because, you know, lots of people, it'll pick up some sound, but we are going to save time at the end for Q&A. So please put all of your questions, comments, because they're already saying hi. I love it. Any questions that you have throughout, feel free to put them in the chat box. My video is going to go off, but I'm still going to be here. I'm going to be monitoring that throughout. So please go ahead, save everything there, and we might have time throughout to answer some questions if they're relevant to what Sherry's talking about at that time. Otherwise, we'll save everything to the end so that way we can make sure we get all of your questions answered. So yeah. All right. Well, enough from me. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Sherry. Thank you so much, Sherry. We're excited for this today.
Jill, I'm so excited.
Yay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sherry. Jill, can I share? Do I have sharing capability?
I will do that. Thank you for reminding me.
No,
there you
go. I have it. I got it. Yep. Okay. So when I share with you all, I can't see you anymore. I mean, I can keep a few of you at the bottom of the screen, but I can't keep all of you on my screen. So just know that I am so excited. My favorite part is when you use the chat, and Jill, I'm so sorry, you know, I will try to control myself, but I actually love when you unmute and talk, but I know I have my phone. I'm trying to be better about staying on time. So try to ask your questions in the chat. I will forgive you if you unmute and ask out loud and interrupt. And I'll apologize to Jill later. So welcome to Skills to Elevate Your Leadership with me, Sherry Santoriello. We're from Ama La Vida. I'm assuming most of you know that. I don't know if you know though, Ama La Vida means love your life. And that's what's important to us here. That's what we do through coaching, is teach people to love their lives, however they define that. So some people define it in leadership, some people define it health and wellness, some people define it career, some people define it through life, and some people define it through multiple ways. You know, and that's what we do here. We just use a really great proven process of one-on-one coaching sessions and our proprietary curriculum to get you where you want to be. So that's who we are. This is me. I'm a career and a leadership coach, which means I can help you go from, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, to, hey, look at me in charge. So I can take you through that whole realm, as well as many of our other coaches can do the same thing. And I'll talk about other coaches while we're on the call today, so you can try to get to know a bunch of us. Okay, here's what we're going to cover today. Also, a couple of housekeeping things we'll talk about. Why does leadership matter? The three main tips we're going to go over today is organize, delegate, show up. How to put that all together. What leadership coaching would look like, so how we can help take some of these pieces and roll it through. And then Q&A at the end. And I will invite you at some point. I think I have, my last slide is inviting you to a free session. So let's keep that in mind as we go through, to a couple of you to be able to have that opportunity to see what coaching is like, because I'm of course going to offer you coaching memberships. So today's session is already being recorded. Jill will send it out right after the call. Most important to me is be present. Take your notes, ask questions. That's what we're here to do. We're here to give you usable, implementable resources that you can take back and be able to use them in a positive way, and to show you how coaching is so beneficial to whatever your next step is in your leadership career. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Before the end of the chat, if Jill doesn't throw it in there, I will throw in my LinkedIn. So because I don't see the chat, when mine goes in there, you have to connect with me. Also, this is a great opportunity to connect with others on the call. We have a full call today, so this captive audience, feel free to connect. Send a note, say, hey, I was with you on the leadership call from ALV, let's connect, because that's the best way to continue to build your network. John Rakia, our Director of Career Services, calls it keeping your networking on simmer all the time. So I love that and love to share that. Enroll in any of our future trainings, go to our event page. We offer such a high range of things that help you, again, across career, health and wellness, life, leadership. So make sure you check out what we're offering, because we do offer a lot of free content. And lastly, if you're in a leadership position or coming into a leadership position, talk about asking your company to pay for coaching for you as professional development. It's a wonderful way to say that, hey, I'm going to take what I'm learning here to make me a better leader, and I want you to pay for it because I'm going to share these learnings out with everybody in our org, and it's just a great way to elevate your entire organization, as well as help your team members get some professional development in as well. Okay, why does coaching matter? What's important about coaching and leadership that we need to talk about? Anybody throw some stuff in the chat? Why do you think leadership matters? What does it do for you and your organization that's important? I know for me, it makes me feel like I'm giving back to my team. It helps me be more efficient in the way that I would roll a team. Jill, anybody feeling like they want to talk about what's going on there? It can also usually raise morale. People working towards a common goal a lot of the time. So leadership is super important. Again, I mean, I don't want to be cliche, but stuff trickles downhill, right? So if you're the leader, if you're at the top of your team, whatever you do comes down to your people. So you definitely want to be making sure you're using best practices for when you're doing that. Okay, first tip of the day is being organized or organizing. So organizing handles these 4 areas: level setting, accountability, feedback, and effective one-on-ones and staff meetings. And we're going to talk about each of those. So what is level setting? What does that mean when you're level setting for your group? What that has to do with is expectation. Setting expectations for your employees is your team, your employees, your group, your collaborative team, whatever phraseology you're using. One of the cornerstones of good leadership is to be able to level set. You need to be able to give your team information so they know what is expected of them. It is very difficult to expect your team to do things when they don't know what that is. So super important for you to set the expectation for what you're thinking your team is going to do. What that does is give your team the opportunity to then come back to you and give their feedback and have their voices being heard in terms of what they expect from you as a leader. Once you set those expectations, it's very, very important to document everything and share it with the group. That has becoming easier and easier with the technology tools that we have today. I can tell you our Director of Leadership Solutions here, Jen Maynard, is always giving us new tools as coaches to help us be more efficient, sharing a doc, putting something in a shared resource so we can all access it. So she really has set the expectation of what she expects from us as leadership coaches, but then documents and shares out what those pieces are. So we have the resources that we need in order to coach more efficiently. So if you were to coach with somebody, you would want to know, hey, you would want to tell me, or as a coach, I would want to know, what do you expect from me? Because it's very difficult to be able to do that without knowing what that expectation is. So that becomes very, very important to level set those expectations. Second piece of that is accountability. As you can see, it follows right through. So now that you've set the expectation, you have followed up and shared, communicated that to your team. Well, now you have to hold them accountable for that. You know, now you're saying, okay, we've set that expectation. Now I need to hold you accountable for doing that. And how do we do that? Through feedback, through giving effective feedback. Effective feedback is hard to do. Sometimes we struggle with doing it because we don't know how to feel comfortable. Once you level set those expectations, share that information, continually follow up, and make sure you're holding your team accountable, the feedback feels easier because it becomes just an extension of what those expectations were. Especially do them in real time as often as possible. That way you can show positive and negative, and people can give voice to that. There's a bunch of different ways of doing feedback that work. Sometimes quick feedback is more effective than those longer constructive criticism pieces. And quick feedback is very simple. It's 4 simple steps. The first is, what do you think went well? Not what went poorly. What do you think went well? You can ask that of your team. And then restate what went well. Yeah, you're right. This went well, this went well. Then the next question is, what could have been better? Again, not what could you have done better, what could have been better? Which gives your team the opportunity to brainstorm and talk about things in a very neutral space, hitting those expectations that you've already set. That doesn't mean you can't ever say negative things. Sometimes we have to. You want to be able to provide both. But by setting those expectations up for your team and constantly communicating and holding them accountable, the feedback piece gets easier because it's really just the next step in that conversation. Another way to stay organized, because this is all falling over organize, right? We have a couple of different areas. This is still all within organize, is having effective one-on-ones and effective staff meetings. What does that mean? That means utilizing your time in your one-on-one to get to what the root of the problem is. Have an agenda, find a way to work that is good for you. We will send out, Jill, I will give to you our effective one-on-one template when we follow up on this call. And that's where in our format, it keeps it very tight. So what it provides in that effective feedback is providing an opportunity for wins, providing an opportunity for status, and providing an opportunity for now actionable items that can move somebody forward. if it's bettering a project, professional growth. So that way, that again goes back to that accountability feature. Same thing in staff meetings. You want to make sure that you're using an agenda that keeps you in a more controlled setting so that you're covering what you need to cover and that everyone has a voice at that table. That actually rolls us right into the next step, which is delegation. You could throw this stuff in the chat too. What is delegation? Because again, I know our Director of Leadership Solution talks all the time about how delegation is not a dirty word. This is something that I'm working on right now with a leadership client. Is she's very concerned about managing the difference between delegation and being bossy. So we're working on some activities and we're role playing some language so that when she's a new leader, when she's talking to her team, she's able to get the best from them while having them grow, while having the projects get done efficiently. So delegation is like Jen always says, it's not really a dirty word. It's a great word. It's a wonderful word. It's a really great way to get your team to team up, right? To meld, to jive, to work together towards a common goal. As a leader, one of the things that for us is always challenging is how do you delegate without playing favorites? How do you delegate and make sure everybody's getting their voice heard? How do you delegate and it's equitable? Again, these are all cumulative. One of the best ways is making sure you're organized. So if you have gotten yourself organized where you've level set those expectations, you've shared that information with your team, you followed up, you are holding them accountable, you're having these effective communications, a lot of times what that will lead to is self-delegation. Finding out what are your team's strengths? What do they want to be doing? Very often, if your team self-delegates, they're much more willing, motivated, bought into whatever the process is. Because they're getting to either do something that they're going to enjoy, do something that may be challenging to them, do something that will help them grow, whatever is important or priority for them, which you should be able to help figure out in those one-on-ones. Let the group come together. Oftentimes they will self-delegate. If they can, that's where you come in. That's where you come in if they can't self-delegate. And part of that challenge is we always want to do it ourselves. So that's a challenge for us as leaders, is that we don't want to take everything on ourselves. We want to make sure that our team is feeling empowered to do their job. I'm referencing back this client that I'm working with right now who is new to leadership, and she's struggling mightily to set expectations. She's struggling mightily to delegate. She just can't find her own voice. And what we're working on, again, is role-playing some of this language and how to get her team to have this voice at the table so she can assess what their skills are and get a sense of who wants to do what. Now, not all the jobs are fun. We get that. But if you're very upfront about what the tasks and the responsibilities are, you can a lot of times sort of spread them out over the entire team so everyone gets a little piece to have that victory. Because rewarding that win is super, super important, not only to the individual, but to the team as well. So delegation is not a dirty word. Delegation is not, oh, you do that, and you do that, and you do that, and it's all like the crappy stuff. It's, hey, what do you want to do? And Is it because you like that? Is it because you want to grow? Do you want to be challenged? And then watching them have that win, guiding, supporting through that win. And how you support and guide really depends on your leadership style. And everyone does have different leadership styles. We have a great leadership assessment on our website that you can take to get a sense of your leadership style. Jill, could you drop that link in the chat if you can? If not, can we put it in the follow-up?
Yeah, I'll drop it in now, and then I'll also include that in the follow-up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So what's great about this leadership assessment is it gives you a sense of where my strengths are, where my weaknesses are, or challenge points that I can talk to. And we have basically two different kinds, which is a people first leader and a get shit done leader. And quite frankly, one is not better than the other. It's what's going to work for you and your team. But knowing what your strengths are helps you identify the strengths of your team so you know how to delegate. Much like level setting that expectation, you need to be clear about what these pieces are. If you are not clear, you cannot expect your team to do, not do, to understand, to hit their goals, to feel productive, to feel successful. So you need to make sure you're very clear about what those things are. And lastly, there needs to be reward. There needs to be a reward. Think about yourself. You work, and you don't get anything back, whether it's that feeling of satisfaction, whether it's validation from your leader, whether it's just seeing something productive, that reward needs to be built in. As a leader, it's our job to build in that reward. Again, great place to do that, staff meetings and one-on-ones. And don't be afraid to give those props to the team in a staff meeting. It's okay to share that reward with your team, not just individuals. Because again, we're talking about that buy-in on the team. So it's okay to share those rewards. And rewards are different things. Part of the challenge for us as leaders is finding what the right reward is for your team. For some teams, it's just a wonderful email. For some teams, maybe you need to bring in lunch. For some teams, it's, hey, we just got a bigger, better project because we did so great. It's just a matter of being able to hit your team with that right mix of get shit done and people first to have them continue to feel productive and successful and continue to work. A lot of that comes from you as a leader. One trick that I'm using with this client right now is she's struggling to delegate very badly because she can't kind of figure out what her team's strengths are. So one of the suggestions I made is in your regular staff meeting, rotate who runs it. Instead of you as a leader running it, rotate it to your coordinators. Let them each take a week. It's a weekly meeting. They meet every week. It has a standard agenda, but let the coordinator each week change. So that way they're in charge of the agenda. They're in charge of running the meeting. It's a great way for you to see what their strengths are, who needs support in certain areas, how they respond to each other. Giving your team power and empowering them is super important, again, to get that buy-in and to be productive. So when I say show up, what do you think that means as a leader when you have to show up? Because showing up is hard. Right? We're never exactly sure. What does that mean to show up? Does it mean different things depending on what kind of leader you are? What does that feel like? I know for me, showing up is trying to figure out who I need to be in that moment. Do I need to be a mama bear? Do I need to be a servant leader, meaning I'm standing behind and pushing? Do I need to be a get shit done leader where I'm standing in the front and pulling? Where do I need to mentor, coach? Because there's a difference between those two things, right? Coaching is guiding, mentoring is a lot more advice because we've been there. So first you have to determine, what hat am I wearing? What am I doing? Am I training? Am I managing? Am I coaching? Am I mentoring? And the context of the situation will absolutely tell you what hat you have to wear. And oftentimes you got to change that hat every second. And you may have to wear different hats for different people on your team. So again, going back to how these three things build on each other, being organized, being able to delegate and know what strengths your team has helps to point you in the direction of, how do I show up for my team? Because every person on your team might need a different type of manager or a different leader. So you need to be able to sort of adjust with what they need. That means learning how to actively listen, which is hard to do. It means being curious and asking questions, genuine questions. One of the things that we hear all the time from our clients as coaches is, I want my team to know I'm authentic. I don't want them to see me as fake. I don't want them to see me as just towing the company line. I'm really interested in having them have professional growth and being there to help guide them. That all comes from you. Ask genuine questions. Don't just toe the company line or just spout, cool buzzwords. Take some time to get to know your team. What do they bring to the table? Who needs a push in this area? Who doesn't like to be pushed but has a particular strength here? Let them excel in that space. Being human, and I think we've learned this in the past year more than anything else, being human, being kind, makes a big difference by showing that empathy to your team. And don't misunderstand, being empathetic doesn't mean that you don't keep your team accountable. That doesn't make you a pushover. It just makes you being able to understand that your team is made up of human beings and not robots. That people require different things from you as a leader. One of the areas that we're finding that helps when you're asking these questions is to not ask that yes and no answer. Right? Anytime you ask a question is yes or no answer, you've essentially stopped the conversation. Right? How did that, was that good for you? Yes. And all you hear is the tweeting birds because there's nothing else to that. You want to always ask questions that give the opportunity for people to tell their story. What did you think of that? What about that project was interesting to you? If you could do it again, how would you do it differently? Or what would you improve? What would you change? Again, asking questions that require people to give you their narrative, give you their thoughts. If you're doing that, you need to give them the opportunity to answer and be mindful of what they're saying. And don't be dismissive. Because if they're opening up themselves to be vulnerable and participate, as a leader, you also need to be a little vulnerable and participate with your team. So those are important pieces. And those are probably your 3 top tips for me as a leader to come together, which is make sure you organize. And again, that goes back to setting that expectation, providing feedback, staying accountable, having effective meetings. Second, delegate, and you see these build on each other. Delegate, share the workload with others, pull together for a common goal, play to people's strengths, challenge those who need to be challenged. And then coaching, showing up as a coach or a mentor, guiding, leading, pulling, pushing, understanding that everybody on your team might need something completely different. And then lastly, of course, take action. That's the hard part, right? Now that we know all of these things, I have to do all of these things. And in order for them to be successful, you need to do them continually. Coaching with a leader now, actually a longtime leader. And her challenge is she just jumps from thing to thing with her staff, and she doesn't understand why they don't adapt or change. So one of the things that we're talking about in coaching quite a bit is be consistent. You know, part of the challenge now is that her team doesn't think she's genuine because she's just trying every management tactic that she's read in every Business Insider article and every coaching page and everywhere. And she continually is changing her leadership style to the fact that her team doesn't know, there's no expectation. They don't know what's going to happen next. So really important that when you take action, that you stay consistent and give it time, give your team the opportunity to adapt to what your expectation is, to come to the table empowered, to show you who they are so that you can get to that common goal. All right. So we're at the point where I'm going to ask you now, what are you going to do? What commitment are you going to make to your leadership style today? To me, in the chat, because I'm not allowed to ask you to unmute. Put in the chat, what are you going to do? What are you going to take and put back into your team that you're going to make a commitment to so that your team can grow or succeed better? Are you going to delegate better? Are you going to ask better questions? Are you going to be better about setting expectation? Are you going to put an agenda in your meeting? What kind of things are you going to do? Take our leadership quiz, sign up for coaching, share some of this with other leaders or team leaders in your organization so that they can get some professional development. Jill, we got anything rolling in the chat? What are people committing to?
Yeah, and also we're doing pretty well on time. So if anyone wants to unmute themselves and share, please do. Of course, just be mindful of time. But we have a lot of great.
I'm so excited. That never happens.
More delegation, lots of taking the leadership quiz.
Great.
Hey, I'll share where I am on my leadership journey because I'm working with Kate, and so far we've unearthed my strengths. I took the leadership assessment and I was right in the middle. So okay. I'm a get shit done person at a score of 51, but then I'm also the people leader with a score of 49. So it was just right. It was 51 to 49 right in the middle. So in that, and looking at that, that means that the areas in both of them, I can't be strong in all of them. So to make myself aware of, where I drop the ball, because I'm terrible at delegation. I take on more than I should, and I'm working on that. But my leadership statement is that I really do want to empower and encourage others to be their very personal best. And that goes against, and when you're not delegating, you're not giving them an opportunity to grow.
Correct.
So that's where I am right now.
I thank you so much, Faith, for sharing. You've got a great coach. Kate's one of our best. And I love that you shared your leadership statement. What a lot of us need, and I would say probably a lot on this call would agree with you, Faith, that they just take on too much because it's sometimes easier than it is to delegate. What I sometimes teach my clients is use it as a trigger for yourself. Stop and say, does this best serve me? And does this best serve my team? Because at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest, we want to use all of these lofty words like I want everyone to be their best selves, I want to do professional growth. It's still a job and there's still something that has to get accomplished, project, task, responsibility. At the end of the day, if you can't guide your team to successful completion, that becomes the challenge. So a lot of times the question is, if you're not delegating, does that best serve you? How are you going to be a good leader if you're not giving your team the opportunity to professionally grow, to come to the table? And I use it as my trigger for myself personally, and I teach it pretty much to almost all my clients, no matter if they're coaching in career or in leadership. It's such a quick little phrase that just reminds us of what our purpose is, or in your case, your leadership statement, to move ourselves forward, which is this best serving what I set out to do? If it isn't, you make a quick stop. That becomes your trigger. Quick stop, reframe. Right? Most of us are not in leadership positions because we didn't have capability to get there. I'm not saying every leader is, but primarily, if you're on this call, you're self-aware enough to know I want to better myself, my own professional growth, then you can stop and reframe. Great, what do I have to do? Am I organizing? I'm not. Okay, let me go back to that step. Am I delegating? I'm not. Okay, let me go back there. What am I not doing? And what, just like we ask our team, what could I be doing better? What could be better? What's the end result I want from my team? And how do I get them there? For me, and this is a personal opinion, Faith, I love people who are smack dab in the middle of that leadership assessment. Because I think it shows a really nice balance. We hear this phrase all the time, empathetic leadership, or EI, emotional intelligent pieces. And I think when you're a get shit done balanced with the people first, you've got a lot of that good balance in there. It just means you have some pain points that need a little extra work rather than being one way or the other. But that's a definite, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's huge to stay committed to that. Does anybody else want to share where they're at? Are you seeing, I'm trying to, I see the chat lighting up. I just can't read it because I get a little marker when it starts to go. So I'm glad people are sharing in the chat, and I hope you're talking to each other in the chat, because we really learn best from each other.
This is Sarah. I'll share.
Sarah. Yes, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. So when I talk about a team, I'm part of like a leadership team. And we're a smaller company based in Detroit, Michigan, smaller company. And so I've been brought in to help with some culture change. And I'm a new position. Our director of operations is a new position. And so there are some growing pains that are certainly taking place. What I am finding is that there is just so much resistance to organization, to accountability, to contribution. And I keep coming at it, and I'm trying to do things in different ways, but I guess I'm just at a point where I'm like really frustrated because I feel like I'm getting blocked more than like accepted. And the last thing I'll say is I was having a conversation with the president of our company, who's a personal friend of mine. And he shared with me that it was said at the office that when Sarah calls, that means work. And I said, the problem that is going on right now, the change that has not shifted is that Sarah equals work equals bad. Right. Not Sarah equals work equals value.
Right.
And like, how do we shift that? And that is true even with our like sales manager, director of operations, and people in leadership positions. And I'm not trying to dominate the team. I'm trying to help bring organization and structure so that we actually do things more intentionally and efficiently as a company to help everyone.
Help. what it sounded like to me, obviously without being there, is that your colleagues haven't had a voice. So now you've been sort of put in place and you're the only voice because you're going to bring order. I would find some opportunities to have their voice be heard. It could even be just a simple, hey, we're just going to have a quick coffee. You know, tell me what your thoughts are here. I mean, I'm new. You have some historical perspective. I don't. You know, I'm feeling resistance from you. Tell me about that. What would you like to see? Maybe it's an employee survey. There's a lot of different ways to get people's opinion. Sometimes you have to do it with a cookie. You know, sometimes you just have to do it with a cookie because you don't know how often they didn't get the cookie because you're coming in after culture's already been set. Again, I go back and I hate to sound like my grandmother here, but you know, kindness counts and manners count. And sometimes when you're coming into a situation where people haven't had the opportunity to be treated humanly, you're now the scapegoat. You're who they put in place. So when Sarah calls, it's work, as opposed to, hey, when Sarah calls, I'm getting an opportunity to have my voice be heard. Maybe I can be part of this solution. Maybe what I've wanted all this time could be implemented because I know I have a better way of doing it. So
thank you.
That for me, if we were coaching together, that's where I'd go first to see if you can get some input. And I know that sounds so simplistic and you're probably saying to yourself, I've tried it every which way from Sunday. Sometimes you just need, it's like hitting the big guy first in a fight. Find your influential person in that group and see if you can make friends.
Yep.
Is it a coffee? Is it a cookie? Is it a, hey, can you run the meeting for me? You have to find out sort of what's going to incentivize them to play. And a lot of times all you need is one, right? It's the pebble in the water, and then you get that ripple effect. But you always want to go for the person who's going to be most influential. And it's probably your harshest critic, which is always fun. You know, it can't ever be the nice person in the corner. It always has to be the one who's boisterous and loudest and the most, you know, obtuse. And it's always that person. But that's where I would say to start.
Thank you.
I don't know if that's helpful. I hope it is. I'm a cookie fan. If I was up to me, everyone would always get a cookie because I just think that makes everybody better. So, you know, but a lot of it sounds to me like they just haven't been heard yet. You know, maybe they don't have access to be heard. You know, if leadership is running everything up here and then it trickles down and nobody down here gets a foot in that room, it feels us versus them instead of we. It's changing that, reframing that mindset that we're not an us versus them. It's a we. We are here together. If the company does better, we all do better. And then, of course, the company has to back that up. You know, that's that be authentic and genuine piece that comes in. If the company is saying, if we all do well, if you do well, we all do well, then they have to do that. You know, then they have to do that. They actually have to give that back. Because who doesn't love a baby, right? Who does not love a baby? We all love a baby. I love my baby. Isn't he so cute? Okay. We're here to help. That's what ALV does. We're here to help. We are here to help you get to whatever that next level is. Important to know, what can you get from coaching? So what we've done here today is actually just a piece of what you would get in coaching. We tend to follow the ADIT model when we coach, but understand coaching at ALV is a customized experience. We meet you where you're at. I think I've been saying some things about what I have some clients doing now. I have clients who just don't know how to run a meeting. Okay, that's what we work on. I have clients who are brand new leaders and know nothing about being a leader. Okay, that's what we work on. What we do is we get a sense of, where are you? Where are you? What are you at? What do you need? What are your goals? What are your strengths? What are your passions? How does this align with the company you're at? How does this align with your team? Then let's plan. Let's identify some areas of pain, some challenge, and work on coming up with something that's going to to be better, or that could help enhance where you're at. Then we implement those things. And then we transition. Is it working? If it isn't working, let's talk about what about it isn't working. And that's where your coach comes in, because your coaches are people who have the experience in this area for years and years and years. Plus, we're objective. It's our job to be objective, so we can hold you accountable while you hold your team accountable, which is part of the importance. These are just some companies that we coach with in leadership and executive coaching to help bring their leaders to different levels. And their employees and their team members to utilize some leadership pieces. Here's my prize for the day. Here's my prize. I'm offering to 3 of you a leadership coaching strategy session, 30 minutes, so you can get some idea of what coaching looks like. Jill's gonna drop my link into the chat. And the first 3 people who book that strategy session get it. And that's it. It's that simple. You get a half an hour of my time. We can talk through some solutions. I will talk with you a little bit about our program. I'm going to hopefully wrangle up a second promotion that I can get, because giving you half an hour of my time is one promotion. See if I can get you a second promotion if you wanted to become a member. Because here at ALV, membership has its privileges. Please don't tell American Express I just used that. Becoming a member of ALV gives you access to all of our content, all of our resources, member-only events, pieces and parts of, we have internal networks and access to coaches, and my personal favorite part of our membership is the ability to access all 15 coaches on our staff. So you work with a head coach. I'll use Faith as an example. She's working with Kate. Kate is a career/leadership coach, and she does some life coaching. Let's say Faith decides she wants to do some stress and burnout work. Maybe that's not Kate's area of expertise. Well, she could have a celebrity session with one of our coaches who deals with stress and burnout, all part of your membership. So sign up for those 3. You only get 3, and would be happy to discuss some challenges that you're having. All right, we're going to roll into the question portion of our day. Do I still have time, Jill? Am I okay still? Because
you have 8 minutes left. You're doing great. So so any questions that we have left, please feel free to ask away. You can put them in the chat. You can unmute yourself, but if you do, just be mindful of time.
So please ask away. What do you have questions for? I'm gonna just roll to my next slide while you're asking, which is my email, and I'm gonna steal Jill's phrase. Okay, I'm behind this email. This email goes directly to my inbox. It does not go to an automated person. You see me, I'm real. That's my email. Feel free to reach out. If you didn't get into the strategy session, reach out to me. If you have a question, you want to just run something past me, happy to answer any questions. Right, I'm going to stop so I can see all of your gorgeous faces. All right, any questions? Anybody have any? No questions.
No questions right now.
Does that mean I end 7 minutes early? Nobody will believe us if we tell them.
No, I think there is so much. There's a lot of engagement, lots of stuff. And of course, there's, with these sessions, there's so much jam-packed in here that questions will surface after.
Yep, of course.
I apologize if I am mispronouncing this. Cystic, you have a question? Go ahead, you can unmute yourself. We have time.
Where are you? Ask away.
Let's see if he's still on.
He's still on mute.
I think he's getting there.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. First to say hello, I'm from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I have one question for you.
Ask away.
Thank you very much. Currently, I'm not working in a leadership and I'm not leading any team or something like that. But I in future I want to do it. But you know, I have problems with my currently management and people who are our leaders. So how can we do anything to take that responsibility on us? How can we show them that we are better at this position that they are? That's my question.
Wow, that's a really good question. Way to put me right on the spot there, Sisik. Great. So managing up and to the side is a very challenging thing to do, which is what you're talking about. When you feel that your management isn't doing a good job and you have to manage around them, again, probably the cornerstone to that is really good communication with your colleagues and setting the expectation within your own sort of group. So even though you might not have a formal leader, you may have an informal leader that sort of emerges from that group. As long as you're clear with your communication and you act as a group. Again, we go back to that consistency piece and being clear about what those expectations are. If you as a group are working together, oftentimes you can bring that to management in a clear, concise way. Offering solutions that work together with the team is usually, without knowing all the details of who your management is, that's usually a good way to handle it. But being cohesive and being clear about your expectations and constantly communicating so there's no misunderstanding is a big part of getting that team cohesion so that you can manage up or out, depending on what the situation is. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Not easy. You're in a challenging spot. That's a challenge right off the top. All right, anybody else? Questions? I think we have a couple more minutes left. Don't forget
Hi
to...
there.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Sandra. I'm from the UK. I'm in London, South London. I have a question because I'm a bit stuck in my team. So I'm a teacher at the moment, but I've also got a class and I've run my department as well. So obviously I've got teaching assistants that I manage. Then I need to manage other teachers within my department. But my issue is that the teaching assistants, because we're friends, it's really hard, you know, to try and get the message across and for them to follow the direction that I give. So how do I go about that issue that I have?
Oh my goodness, such a difficult. Jill, did you plant the difficult ones today? Okay, so difficult when you're friends with people who are on your team that you are leading. This goes back to being very crystal, 75 other adjectives clear, Sandra, about what the expectation is and what the accountability looks like. So today we've talked a lot about setting that expectation and providing that regular feedback, both not negative and positive. When you're friends with people, it's very important to be clear about what your expectation is when you're the team lead and what your expectation is as a friend. And those two things sometimes intertwine. Constantly giving feedback and holding them accountable is part of the key. So there has to be some understanding of, and again, without being punitive, here's what the expectation is, here's how I'm holding you accountable, here's what happens if that doesn't happen, here's the effect that has on the project, the team, the company, the common goal. So it's not that you're hurting me personally, you're hurting all of your colleagues, you're hurting the program. You know, you're in an education situation, so now you're impacting the students and their learning experience. You know, so again, that ripple effect works both ways, positive and negative. The critical piece to that is that clear communication. Always write it down, always have it somewhere where it's accessible for everybody. So there's never any question of, you didn't say that. Yes, I did. I said it. We agreed on it. We worked on it as a group. We all understood all the pieces of it. And now let's revisit. Here's where we are. What could we do better? And hopefully over time that works for you, so you don't have to have that hard conversation of, hey, listen, you can't take advantage. And sometimes you do come to that. I'm hopeful that you won't have to, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we do.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
You're very welcome. Any other questions, thoughts?
Hi, it's Mandy. Hi, I'm Mandy. I'm from the UK. I oversee, I'm an operations director in a social care company. So as you can imagine, these last 15 months have been quite interesting. And I oversee managers that manage care homes. And one of the things that I wouldn't say struggle with, but is that fine line between when someone needs mentoring and coaching to the point where they need performance management. And I think sometimes I continue to mentor and coach way beyond that barrier at times, when actually what I need to be doing is performance managing.
Yeah, it's such a hard line. And we talk about this internally all the time, the difference between mentoring and coaching. And, you know, put 4 coaches in the room, you're going to get 8 opinions about how the best way to do this is. Some coaches feel very strongly about coaching only, hands off. We don't give advice, we just guide. Some coaches take more of a tactical approach. I think for you is probably going to be a little bit of self-exploration of what you think is going to work for your style. So like I can tell you, for me as a coach, I am a combination mentor coach. I do a lot of tactical work. I do give an opinion. You know, and we have other coaches who won't. That's not their job as a coach. Their job is to only guide. So I think it's finding that fine line for yourself, but also what feels comfortable. But again, going back to that being accountable. So if you've set that expectation and that expectation isn't being met, sometimes you have to look at what's the root cause, especially if you're talking about someone who might have to go and perform it, you know, like a PIP plan. What's the root cause? Is the root cause because they don't have the resources? They don't have the tools they need? Is it something as a leader I could be doing better? Is the company not supporting? Is it something personal? You know, especially in the situation you're in, being mindful and being intentional of what the last 15 months has felt like for them. You know, is there a different root cause here that I have to get at the problem in a different way? And that again is building that credibility with your team at the beginning, because it's hard to be vulnerable, especially, you know, people are afraid of losing their job, afraid of losing their position, afraid of not being heard. So sometimes it's trying to figure out what that root cause is before knowing which direction to go. You know, if it's a straight professional situation, then you need to deal with it that way, resetting those expectations, hearing what they have to say, working through those effective one-on-ones, giving them the space to fail and grow and be better. If it's personal, well, maybe as an empathetic leader, there's other things you can do, what resources are available to support them. Because a PIP plan doesn't work for everybody, especially if the root cause isn't professional. And I think we're learning over this last year that a lot of things that go on professionally don't happen from professional things. They're personally based. So you need to get to what that root cause is, so you know what way to approach. And it's a struggle, Mandy. There's no right or wrong answer for this. I think it's a lot of times is knowing your people and trying to really be authentic with them.
Yeah, and I also think as well, because I oversee 16 managers, they're all very different and they have all different personality traits, and they all, you know, we are all working towards a common goal, but it's that one of the things that I've definitely got better at is knowing when to change my hats. So, you know, I go and speak to one manager and I've got one hat on, and I go and speak to another manager and I then have to change hats, and I could be changing hats 3 or 4 times a day. So it's kind of having that constant momentum going.
I would suggest that you make sure you have the support that you need also.
Yeah, I do.
That's a piece we didn't talk about in this webinar, but it is in other webinars that we have. As a leader, you have to also make sure you're getting the support you need from your leadership team, because that's also very helpful for you to be able to provide it to your team. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I love that you're all sharing. It's my favorite part. I would do hours of just letting you come off and just talk. It would be my favorite part.
I love it. Well, maybe one event. We can do like like a question, like a submission question, kind of like a Q&A. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Marie Forleo, but she does these little like YouTube shows where she just has people just submit a bunch of questions around a specific topic. So it could be maybe questions just about leadership in general, but maybe we can do just like a Q&A and have people actually ask their questions live and just have a whole session of that. I think that'd be
like
fun to
Instagram stories, right? Ask me anything. It's an Instagram thing.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we are 6 minutes over. Thank you so much for letting us go over a little bit. Your questions were so wonderful. Oh, there you go. Says yes, exactly. Yeah, Marie Forleo. So she every once in a while she'll do hot questions from her audience, and she'll answer them live, and she'll do like a training session on them, which is fun. We'll collaborate, Sherry. We got ideas. Thank you all so much for your time and energy today. I know leadership is always a really loaded topic. So please make sure that you should be on our mailing list, or I'll also include the link to sign up as well, so that you can continue to stay in the loop with all of our other leadership events. Our leadership newsletter is always full of tons of resources and really great advice as well. But we'll share all of that in the recap email. So keep an eye out for that sometime tomorrow, and let us know if you have any other questions that come up. And thank you, Sherry, so much. This is really, really wonderful. And I love that people are still staying on and hanging out. So thank you guys all so much for your time. And we'll definitely see you soon.
Soon.
All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.